Welcome into Recruit Reaction. We just got finished watching UF LSU. What an amazing win for the Florida Gators at home, 27-16 over LSU, and they did it in front of hundreds of recruits. That's what we're going to do today. We are here to talk recruiting reaction to some of these big-time games. Now, we're going to get to Colorado, Utah. We're going to talk some Georgia, Tennessee, but we got to start with the Florida Gators. They win at home 27-16 over LSU. DJ Lagway goes 13 for 26. He threw for 226 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Now, LSU, get this, they dominated time of possession, 41 minutes to the Gators 18, but they just weren't able to put together. They were able to sustain drives, but they weren't able to score touchdowns, and that's what matters. And the Florida Gators take this one at home. Let's bring in Steve Wiltfong because we're going to talk some recruit reaction with On3 national analyst Steve Wiltfong. Steve, as I said, hundreds of recruits on campus. We're going to get into that in a second, but what did you think of DJ Lagway's performance tonight in the Swamp?
Well, he shows you why he was the Gatorade National Player of the Year, a guy that this Florida program can rebound under, maybe the most influential recruit for the Gators since Tim Tebow signed with this program under Urban Meyer. His performance in front of these recruits in attendance give this program promise. The administration backing Billy Napier, DJ Lagway playing at a high level. The defense racking up 7 sacks. It was both sides of the ball. The reaction is already coming in, and recruits are buzzing about the Gators. This performance this night is going to lead to recruiting wins, which will ultimately lead to some more victories on the field.
All right. I want to update a couple names that were there and a big-time name that did not make it in. Now, wide receiver Jamie French, the 5-star out of Jacksonville, Florida, was there with his teammate Solomon Thomas. Now, Jamie French committed to Texas.
Tramel's his teammate, Tramel Jones
Tramel. Solomon Thomas is also from Jacksonville. I'm sorry, but Tramel made it in with Jamie French. Naeem Offord made it in on an official visit.
Yeah,
Myron Charles made it in. He's committed to Texas via Florida State at one time. Yep. Then you had Solomon Thomas, who's from the Jacksonville area, committed to FSU. Danielle Perry-Louise from FSU. Tavares Dice from Auburn. I mean, it was loaded, not to mention some of the big-time 2026 names. I just want to highlight one real quick. He's our number 1 player in the 26 class. Edge Zion Ely was on campus for this one. So, Steve, Florida just pushing all the chips to the middle of the table here. What do you make of this win, and how is it going to impact recruiting over the next 3 weeks for the Florida Gators?
Well, one of the big reasons why the administration backed Florida at this point in the season is because on the recruiting trail, a lot of schools were negatively recruiting Florida, saying that this entire coaching staff was going to turn over, despite the fact that Florida has played better in every year of the Billy Napier era. They've had to reshift a culture. And I think you see the way how hard they're playing. They're playing through a lot of injuries. They got a lot of key guys back against LSU. This was a huge game for LSU as well to get back on track after losing a tough one at home to Alabama. So there was a lot on the line here, and it was Florida that dominated in the second half at home to get the big win.
Yeah, just a absolutely huge win. Now, wanted to talk a bit about some of these defensive linemen that were on campus. We know the Gators are trying to get Joseph Mbachu back on their commit list. At one point, he was committed to them, decided to reopen his recruitment just a couple weeks ago. But I think it's significant that he's on campus this weekend, along with Stephon Shivers, who's fresh off that decommitment from Georgia. Like I said, you got Myron Charles as well, but some of these defensive linemen had to have enjoyed the performance that the Gator defense put on. They were in Nussmeier's face the entire game. They stepped up when it mattered, made big plays. What are you hearing on some of these defensive linemen?
7 sacks for Florida, 0 for LSU. And if you remember, LSU boasting one of the best offensive lines in college football. If you're Zion Ely, the number 1 ranked recruit in 2026, Florida comes into this weekend just trying to make an impression on the blue chipper. He's high on Oregon. He's high on Penn State. A couple others, but This was a lights out performance. The crowd was going nuts all day. Everyone wants to rally behind Billy Napier, this staff, this program, DJ Lagway now, and a guy like Zion Ely. Maybe this propels you in that recruitment, makes you a factor moving forward. In the 2025 class, Stephon Shivers talked to a source close to him tonight. He said that he thinks his recruitment might be coming down to Florida and Louisville, expecting him to set up a visit to Louisville for next week. I know the On3 RPM went in from Corey Bender from our Florida site. I don't hate that pick. We'll see what happens with Louisville. Mbachu's been trending towards Auburn. Let's see if he gets the warm and fuzzies again for Florida. Jeremiah McLeod is another recruit that's trending towards Georgia on the On3 RPM, but he's committed to Florida. He's on campus this weekend. Does this solidify his commitment with Florida moving forward? And I want to circle back to those names that you talked about at the top, Josh. Yeah. I love Florida for Tramel Jones Jr. I think he is a guy that I have marked as the next potential commit in this 2025 class.
Steve, Solomon, do you think that we could – I was going to ask you that next. Do you think that we could get news on Tramel Jones before the weekend's up?
I mean, I thought we were going to get news on Tramel Jones all week, so I just have him on watch.
Okay, gotcha. So that could be imminent, though. That could be maybe by the end of this show. It could be by early next week. It could be on signing day.
No question. And him coming in to push that quarterback room with DJ Lagway and be under him and then ultimately take the reins. That's what you want in your program. Talented quarterbacks, stacking him. Being a Gator would mean a lot to Tramel Jones and his family. They're lifelong Florida fans. Jamie French is his teammate, 5-star receiver, committed to Texas. There's starting to be buzz coming from several places in that state that think that Jamie French may want to stay home, closer to home. Florida's the program that would have the best chance to land him if he does not sign with Texas. And then Solomon Thomas, the number 2 interior offensive lineman in the country, currently committed to Florida State. He doesn't know who Florida State's O-line coach is going to be next year. He doesn't know who Florida State's offensive coordinator is going to be. He told me that Mike Norvell told him he's going to hire the best in the country. That's subjective, obviously. We'll see who he hires and then what your opinions are of that coach. But Solomon told me that the best chance, the schools that have the best chance to flip him are Florida and LSU. It can't hurt beating the Tigers in front of Solomon Thomas today as you are jockeying for position to flip him from Florida State. Florida and Florida State still get to play each other this year too, Josh. Florida's got 5 wins right now. All of a sudden, the postseason's looking like a super strong possibility. They had Tennessee on the ropes on the road. Should have won that game. If quarterbacks don't get injured, I think they beat the Vols at night in Neyland. They've had some other strong performances where they were right there in those ball games, but just didn't have enough to get it done. They got it done tonight against LSU. They should beat the Noles, which should then give them 15 more practices in a bowl game at the end of the year, really catapulting this program forward with some momentum that we haven't seen in a long time. It starts with that guy right there, DJ Lagway. Again, maybe the most impactful recruit at Florida since Tim Tebow joined the fold.
So Gator fans have to give a little bit of credit to the UF admin here. It wasn't a popular move at the time, giving Billy Napier that kind of shot of confidence in the arm that he's going to stick around. But look at this, a huge win over LSU with hundreds of recruits on campus. Naeem Offord's another one of these guys that, Florida was going to take a big swing at no matter what. When you looked at the visit list on the way in, you didn't think that they had much of a shot at Naeem Offord, but this is why you kind of do these big visit weekends. It gives you a chance at somebody like a Naeem Offord that maybe they didn't have a shot at prior to this weekend. What do you think this atmosphere does to somebody like a Naeem Offord?
I think him and his family are having a good time. Text with his dad a little bit today as obviously Florida's climbing uphill in that recruitment, but, I talked to a source earlier in the week that thought that there was genuine interest from the Offord camp and Florida. So we'll see. Obviously, Auburn is the program that we project as maybe the best chance to flip him from Ohio State. Certainly, Oregon is also in the thick of that one for Naeem offered. So is Florida a place where he feels like he could develop and be the best player he can be? Do they have all the resources and infrastructure to land him? They brought him in on a hell of a weekend. There's going to be a lot of excitement with this coaching staff and with the players on the team and in the locker room. So, look, you and I both know recruiting is more fluid than ever right now. So will it be fluid enough for them to make a move on Naeem Offord? I don't know. But I do think that Florida's going to land several guys that were on campus this weekend in the 2025 class that are not currently committed to Florida.
Yep. All right. Well, we will be talking much more Florida Gator recruiting throughout the week. Gator fans, talk to Steve and I about tonight's win over LSU. How do you guys feel about the direction of this program under Billy Napier and DJ Lagway? How are you feeling about recruiting, and which one of these guys on campus do you think will be the next Gator flip? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, we got to talk some Colorado Buffalo. Let's go to Boulder, talk a little Colorado Buffalo recruiting. Now, the Buffs beat Utah 49-24 at Folsom Field. Shedeur Sanders, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Travis Hunter rushed for a touchdown, had an interception, 55 yards receiving, did it all, made it clear why he should be the front runner right now for the Heisman. He was blocking, he's playing defense, he's playing every snap of the game. Both sides of the football, their defense came to play. Like I said, they 40-burger Utah. I did think Isaac Wilson played well. He's a freshman. I think he's going to be really good at Utah at some time. But let's talk recruiting, Steve. And Colorado had a huge weekend, namely these guys from IMG, offensive lineman Michael Carroll, the 5-star committed out of Bama, linebacker Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, who is not committed anywhere. Edge London Merritt was on campus. Edge Alexander McPherson, committed to Oklahoma State, was there. Steve, an electric atmosphere on Folsom Field for this big noon kickoff.
Yeah, I'm being told big IMG dinner tonight in Boulder. Alexander McPherson, 5-star offensive lineman. Alexander McPherson's committed to Oklahoma State right now, visited NC State last weekend. 5-star offensive lineman Michael Carroll, committed to Alabama right now. Alex Graham's in Boulder. He has been visiting Michigan regularly. He is back at Colorado this weekend. He's part of the IMG dinner tonight. Jordan Seaton will be out. IMG Distinguished alum, starting left tackle for Colorado. Cash, the most famous walk-on offensive lineman in the country for Colorado. Amari Jones, the 2026 DB. They're all going to break bread together with staff members of Colorado. Alexander McPherson, I think he's going to end up at Colorado. And I think, look, I talked to Michael Carroll's dad. Let me pull the quote here as they are having a good time.
What the people are waiting for, Steve.
Visit. My kid is awestruck with the scenery and everything. So obviously they're having a great time. Now, I thought coming into the visit, it would still be very hard to flip from Alabama, their track record of production, the amount of players in the NFL out of Alabama, the relationships with the coaching staff, the love that his parents have for Alabama. I'm not saying he's going to flip from Alabama to Colorado, but Michael Carroll Jr. is excited about his opportunity with Colorado. I think Colorado has shown that there are resources and infrastructure for their offensive linemen that makes it very attractive for a young man off the field. And they're having a great time. And there's going to be an IMG dinner tonight. And we'll see how the weekend continues to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fun because you want to get those IMG recruits all together, because we talked about this, I think, on the Wilt Fong Whip Around on Thursday, about how IMG players are a bit, they've been through a little bit of this, right? They're already living away from home. They're already participating in school the same way college does. They live in a dorm. They go to school at a different facility. There's a brotherhood with these IMG guys. And for them to get on campus and hang out with a Jordan Seaton and a Cash Cleveland, guys that have gone from IMG to Colorado and are playing immediately, I think that's going to have a big impact. I love the fact that they're bringing in all these IMG guys together. And it makes it so much better when you can win a noon kickoff, Steve. Like you said on the Wiltfong Whip Around, it means that it's just going to be good vibes into the night. And instead of a game ending at maybe 11:30 p.m., they've got the entire day to spend with these recruits. They went from a concert in the locker room. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a impromptu concert in the Buffalo locker room.
Those aren't impromptu anymore. Those are planned, man. That's part of the vibe. That's part of the culture, the environment at Colorado. If you come and play for this program and you play well, you are going to have a lot of fun in the meantime. And you can see this program. They are winning big games. They are pushing for the college football playoff. They are emerging as the favorite of the Big 12. They have Heisman Trophy candidates on their roster. They have playmakers for days. This is an offense that looks fun to play in. You see the development of Shedeur Sanders. He has a chance to be the #1 overall pick in the draft. Travis Hunter could go #1 or #2. You see the way he elevates his football team, makes everyone better around him. He is the best two-way player that we have seen, Josh, and we've seen some good ones. Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey immediately come to mind, but Travis Hunter, his snap count, the difference he makes, the way he elevates his team is huge. I want to circle back real quick. Nathaniel Owusu, Boateng, and London Merritt, we didn't talk about them as much. They wanted to come back and get a midweek experience at Colorado. They've already done a game environment. To come back and just get a sense of what it's like there in Boulder during the week, be around the players in that atmosphere could be major needle movers as Colorado looks to beat Michigan for Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, and they try and flip London Merritt from Ohio State. I could see both of them at Colorado instead of in the Big Ten. And again, 10 a.m. kick, Colorado time, kegs and eggs, great atmosphere. You see the sun shining down on that field at 10 in the morning. It looked glorious, picturesque there. Interception on the very first snap. After that, it was pretty much all Buffaloes. The way they responded, the way they just always respond to adversity. That culture has really become one of the better ones in college football in a heartbeat. You know, there were a lot of people piling on last year, 4-8, piling on early in the year when they weren't in stride. Look, it's a long season. You want to be playing your best football at the end of the year. You don't need to be playing your best ball in September. And Colorado had to go to the transfer portal and land a lot of guys. So, no, they weren't gelled completely in September. But now we're in November. It's championship season, and they are playing as well as just about anyone in the country right now. They're going to be a tough out. And recruits are excited about this program. I love where they stand with Quentin Gibson. He's a receiver from the Lone Star State in the 2025 class that they had on campus recently. And they had a quarterback on campus this weekend, Josh, not Julian Lewis, not another 2025. But they had Jaden O'Neal. He's committed to Oklahoma. He's a 4-star recruit from Narbonne High in California. He camped at Colorado in the summer, felt the family feel around the coaching staff and program back then, comes in for a game day experience. And the one thing I know about Jaden O'Neal, talking to his camp about the interest in Colorado, if Julian Lewis flips to the Buffaloes, which is what the On3 RPM says he will do, including my prediction, Jaden O'Neal is not going to be detoured from potentially flipping to Colorado himself. I think that he would welcome that situation, come in and be ready to compete alongside Julian Lewis. Maybe that elevates his game, but just be part of what this growing program is starting to become. And we'll see what that means for Colorado long-term as they continue stacking roster after roster. But what a day in Boulder. And a lot of excitement. And I look forward to bringing coverage later in the weekend about this IMG dinner.
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about these IMG players, this IMG dinner, this IMG potential pipeline. But I want to also talk about something that we've been saying. Some of these guys on Colorado's commit list a year from today are going to be making a major impact. Steve, you've been stressing this for a couple weeks now, that if Coach Prime is recruiting you from the high school level, regardless of your ranking, he's expecting you to contribute right away. We saw it again today. You know, it's not just Jordan Seaton, the 5-star out of IMG. You got Cash Cleveland playing a key role starting at center in this game. Then you had Draylon Miller making that grown man play. Draylon Miller out of the state of Texas last year. He was a great get, and you see them making plays on Saturday in crucial moments. And that's why I think you're seeing some of these guys, some of these 5 stars, even though they're committed to Alabama, even though they're committed to Ohio State, they're giving Colorado a real look because they know in 9, 10, 11 months, they could be on the field making plays at Folsom Field.
Absolutely, Josh.
All right, Colorado fans, talk to us. We've been talking Colorado Buffs recruiting all season long, but right now, in this moment, it feels like the Buffs are on the verge of something major. Talk to us, comment section below. How are you feeling about this weekend, and how are you feeling about this recruiting class? Let us know who you think the Buffs will land. Comment section below. All right, now we're going to head to Athens. Let me get this in here. Boom. We're going to talk a little Georgia, Tennessee ahead of a big game. In Athens hasn't been buzzing like this in over a month. There hasn't been a home game in Athens in I think it's about 37 days. But Steve, the talent is on campus, headlined by quarterback Julian Lewis, committed to USC. Then we got a couple Tennessee commitments: Travis Smith, Christian Gass on campus, Jamarian Morrow committed to Mizzou. You get it. There's a bunch of flip targets on campus. We'll hit on more. But also quarterback Jared Curtis makes his return. The number 1 linebacker in America in the 2026 class, Tyler Atkinson, he's on campus. Georgia pulling out all the stops for this one against the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. And 5-star cornerback DJ Pickett, the number 1 corner in the land, LSU commit, visits Georgia this weekend. Early in the week, there was talk of him visiting Florida, but he is between the hedges tonight, a return visit to Georgia. And one thing that I know the family's always liked about the Georgia program is T-Rob, one of the defensive backs coaches, and then just the pedigree of player development under Kirby Smart and his staff. Certainly what he loves about LSU, playing in the SEC, playing against that competition week in and week out, that certainly holds the same truth at Georgia. And the Bulldogs getting him to campus today. He's been on campus all day, arrived in the morning. So he's been there for all the buildup in the hoopla going into the weekend. Can Georgia flip Travis Smith Jr. on 300 receiver, currently committed to Tennessee, having a wonderful senior season? You and I and Chad Simmons talked earlier this week. We think that Georgia's alive for Travis Smith Jr. Same goes for on 300 linebacker Christian Gass. So they're taking their swings at some coveted guys currently committed to Tennessee to go out there tonight and beat the Vols on their home field. Maybe those are the inches that you're looking for in what could be a tight recruiting battle down the stretch.
All right. So I think the people want to know, what do you make of Julian Lewis, the USC quarterback, being on campus this weekend? We know that he's currently trending to Colorado based on all these latest predictions, but he shows up at Georgia. Is this a visit to a big game, or do you think there's more to Julian Lewis in Athens this weekend?
I think that if you're recruiting Julian Lewis, you got to offer a few things to him to ultimately land his signature. Early playing time, a pathway to that. I actually think Georgia may check that box. Obviously, Carson Beck is going to exhaust his eligibility this fall. You have guys like Gunnar Stockton and Ryan Puglisi on the roster. Also brought in the other transfer. Why am I blanking? Jaden Rashada. Brought in Jaden Rashada. But I think that'll be an open competition in spring camp. And Julian Lewis, if he were to enroll early, would be thrusted into that. And he's shown over the course of his career that no stage is too big for him, leading his high school football team to the state championship in the largest class as a 9th grader. Do you have the team to compete and win a lot of games with talent around him? Do you have an exciting offense where he can flourish in it? I think obviously he sees that as a factor at Georgia. And then do you have the infrastructure and resources to land a signature from Julian Lewis, who's already one of the highest grossing athletes in this class with some of the endorsement deals that he has? That's where I start questioning. I think Colorado has that. I think they check all the boxes that I said. Plus, I just think he already feels like he fits in at Colorado, and it's a program that needs him, and the opportunity for him to start in his first year is all but guaranteed there. So I still like Colorado, but we'll see how the conversations and stuff went today with Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo and company. We'll see if this is a visit where afterwards we're saying he committed to Colorado over Georgia.
I mean, I talked to Rusty Mansell during the week, and he wasn't. I'll just say that it doesn't feel like Georgia's all in. Rusty alluded to the fact that they probably were going to get on campus and have a real discussion with Julian Lewis and his family, kind of see what they want, like where everything fits. But the one thing we do know, Steve, is that Georgia wants a second quarterback in this class because earlier this week, Jaron Sagapulitelli, who is committed to Cal, decided to move his official visit back. So he's not on campus this weekend. But we do know that Georgia, it feels to me that they're more all in on Key Sagapulitelli than they are on Julian Lewis. Are you reading that the same way I am?
I think that late in the cycle, I do believe that. And then Camario Taylor, the Mississippi State commit, right. Georgia also recently offered him. So I think those are two new names that they're excited about. Obviously, there was a time in the process where they were excited about Julian Lewis, but I think that they went their separate ways for a number of reasons. Can that be reconciled late? To Rusty's point, those are conversations that are having to be had this weekend when he visits campus.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's talk about these 2026 names on campus before we get off of Georgia. Jared Curtis, Tyler Atkinson, Savion Hyder, Derek Cooper. Georgia is battling for the number one class in the 2025 cycle because of the work that they did a year ago with the names that we're talking about now. So how are they doing with some of these monster 2026 names?
Well, they're at or near the top of the list for Tyler Atkinson. Ohio State's a program that's up there. USC, Auburn, a couple others firmly in the mix for Tyler Atkinson. He's been out to Texas, but I like where Georgia stands early for him in his process. Savion Hyder has a top 5 that includes Michigan and Ohio State and Tennessee, Penn State. He's visited all those programs with the exception of Penn State this fall. So getting back to Georgia, he was there in the spring, had a fabulous time. So they're in the thick of it there. Derek Cooper's made some rounds. He was at Ohio State last week. He's been to Miami a couple times. Miami looks like the early favorite, but Georgia's in the middle of it. And then Jared Curtis, Oregon's his current leader, but his recruitment's been fluid. Number 1 quarterback in the country in the 2026 class. Recently decommitted from Georgia. This is his first time back in Athens. He's excited to see Mike Bobo again, Montgomery Van Gorder, Kirby Smart, get in that atmosphere, get around the guys. Georgia's still at or near the top of his list. Again, Oregon's the leader, but he said, look, I'm not committing soon this time. So even though I like Oregon the most right now, he's going to take multiple visits to all these schools before he decides. So he's got Ohio State next week. Then he's got Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl, then Alabama for the Iron Bowl. Then he wants to hit them all again early next year. And then he said he's going to take his official visit. So Georgia's right there, still building equity in that recruitment, with this weekend being another huge opportunity.
All right, Georgia fans, talk to Steve and I as this Tennessee game kicks off. But I want to talk quarterback recruiting with you guys. What do you think? Jaron Key Sagapulitelli. Do you like Julian Lewis as a fit? What about Camario Taylor? It's clear, though, that Georgia is going to take a second quarterback out of the high school level. So comment below, who do you guys want the Dogs to take at quarterback? Let us know. All right, we are moving on. Steve, let's talk a little USC recruiting. Nebraska went all the way out west, and USC, it wasn't always pretty in this one, but the Trojans pull it out 28-20. And there's big recruiting news to talk about. Maybe the biggest recruiting development of the weekend, 5-star quarterback Husan Longstreet. He was visiting USC. News broke moments before the game that Longstreet was on campus. Steve, are you surprised after the reporting that you did this week that Husan Longstreet attended this USC game?
Well, I think that while Husan Longstreet and his camp have been saying promising things to Texas A&M, the one thing I noted on the Whip Around or our live recruiting show, it all runs together now, Josh. So people need to make sure they're hitting like and subscribe to this channel so they're getting the best information on our various shows, from your Inside Scoop to my Wiltfong Whip Around to the pop-up shows we do, like the live show we did with Chad Simmons on Wednesday. Florida. So my point was, the right things continue to be said to Texas A&M. but USC is not offered another quarterback, which
Right.
means that they think that they have a shot to flip Husan Longstreet. And I know they think that. I've talked to sources around that program that think that they are right there in the thick of it for Longstreet. They went to his game last night, and he was on campus today for their big win over Nebraska. They're trying to finish this season strong. They got a couple big games coming up against UCLA and Notre Dame. That would be a hellacious way to end the season and then get a bowl win. That would really build some momentum around a program that I thought did a great job of us overhauling their coaching staff and getting this thing back on track. Husan Longstreet, 5-star quarterback, nearby that USC's been keeping warm. There was talks earlier in the season that USC was trying to make a move with him. A&M looked like they stemmed that tide with a couple of visits, but this visit today for the USC game, A&M had no idea that he was going to be there. So I think when you add that to the fact that USC is not offered another quarterback, this is starting to look a little more promising for the Trojans. Now, Husan Longstreet's brother plays at Texas A&M. I think that his dad's supposed to be at that game, so there'll be some conversation with Mike Elko and the Aggie staff and Longstreet family. But Husan was at USC today, and there's a growing optimism that he could ultimately be part of the Trojans class. I think we are all obviously in agreement that we're not expecting Julian Lewis to sign with USC. We think that's trending Colorado's way as we speak.
All right. Well, that is very telling. I'll be waiting for your on 3 RPM pick. I'm sure that news could be coming soon as the weekend's over. We'll see what happens with that, but we'll get to Texas A&M. Texas A&M isn't recruiting poorly. I mean, they're really hot, but USC doing what they got to do at the quarterback position. Now, there's another big name on campus this weekend that we've been anticipating, and that's big old defensive lineman Jaheem Stewart. This is his official visit to USC, and the Trojans, they've been putting in work with Jaheem. They've gotten him on campus a couple times, and now he's here for his official visit as we sit about 3 weeks away from signing day. Steve, this is a big one.
Yeah, Jaheem Stewart got a video last night of him and Coach Eric Henderson at Nobu in Malibu that the Jaheem Stewart camp sent me. So those guys hanging out. I don't know if Jaheem Stewart's closer with any college coach than he is Eric Henderson, USC's defensive line coach, who has come from the NFL, where he coached Aaron Donald, won a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's from New Orleans. Jaheem Stewart's trainer, his mentor, Clyde Alexander, those guys played together in high school, played for a state championship together in high school. And there's been times where USC has maybe looked like the leader for Jaheem Stewart. There's been a lot more buzz around Oregon. Ohio State's been a mainstay at the top of that list. And then there's the portion of people that think that no matter what happens, he's going to stay at LSU. I do think that Jaheem Stewart's very much looking at leaving the state. He loves SC, the opportunities they present for him with life after football. The different companies, the Fortune 500 companies in Los Angeles, being able to connect and network with that realm is really attractive to him. USC's new defensive coordinator, Deonton Lynn, he's in his first season, had one of the best defensive turnarounds in college football last year at UCLA. The Trojans poach him. He's got NFL pedigree. They've really clicked with him and liked that scheme. And then, Coach Henderson and Coach Skylar Jones, the assistant defensive line coach, who's also from Louisiana. There's a lot of comfort with those guys at USC. They're back out there getting the warm and fuzzies this weekend. USC finally gets what they're looking for, a win over Nebraska. They have a chance to finish this season strong, and they have a chance to be one of the hottest finishers on the recruiting trail if they can go out and flip Husan Longstreet, if they can land Jaheem Stewart and some of these other talented guys that are visiting this weekend.
Yeah, and what do you think about just holding on to linebacker Jaden Prolati? Now, he's on campus this weekend, and I thought that was notable.
It is, because he was recently back at Tennessee, and there were times there the Vols looked like the team to beat. And Jaden Prolati's recruitment has been very fluid behind the scenes. Yeah. He's a very early Georgia commit, and during that commitment to Georgia, there were a lot of other leaders from Florida State to Auburn to Tennessee to obviously USC, where he's committed, getting him back out because he's from the PJ. That's where Julian Lewis is from. So they got a relationship. Are you coming to rock with just Julian, or are you coming because USC's best for you? I mean, USC has maybe the best linebackers coach in the country right now, Coach Entz, who's a national champion winning head coach who comes to USC. Again, Coach Linton, this whole revamped staff. So good vibes at USC this weekend. And again, they got a chance to be one of the hottest finishing programs in the country on the trail.
Yeah. They get that big noon win, which means they're going to have some extra time to recruit. So USC Trojan fans, hey, it wasn't always pretty, but the Trojans get a huge win, gets them back on track. So talk to us. What do you think about a big quarterback flip? Is Husan Longstreet the guy for USC? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's hit on Alabama. They did what they had to do against Mercer. There's a couple flip targets on campus. That's who I want to talk about. Start with the official visitors. Running back Jace Coloraod committed to Michigan State, and wide receiver Nashawn Montgomery, who missed a great game down in Gainesville. He's committed to the Gators, but he was in Tuscaloosa this weekend. What do you make of the official visits?
Well, Jace Coloraod is really excited about his Alabama offer, loves the tradition, the potential stage, committed to local Michigan State. We'll know more on that recruitment coming out of the visit. Nashawn Montgomery, at one point, I thought Alabama was his leader in the spring. That did not work out for him. But things picking up here late in the things picking up late here in the process for Nashawn Montgomery in Alabama. So maybe that magic is rekindled.
Yeah. Kind of interesting for Nashawn because he was at Ole Miss last weekend. He scheduled this visit to Alabama. In the meantime, the Florida Gators, they had this huge win at home. Nashawn Montgomery misses out on that one. We'll see what happens, but it looks like, Nashawn maybe just dotting I's, crossing T's as we get closer to signing day, but his commitment to UF still stands. Now, there's another flip target on campus that Bama Online confirmed. That's DB Mason Dunn, committed to Ole Miss. Ole Miss and Alabama have been going back and forth on the flips. Alabama flips to A.K. Deere. Caleb Cunningham flips to Ole Miss. Now you got DB Mason Dunn on campus at Alabama. Steve, what do you make of it?
Well, that's been a slobber knocker, real back and forth. Bama's coveted him for a while, but we've seen Ole Miss be able to win out guys like Suntarine Perkins from in-state. So, sorry, the phone is blowing up right now with other visit weekends, but Mason Dunn, that one looks like it's going to go down to the wire, and Alabama continues to give him things to think. Because, look, he was at the win over Georgia, and if that wasn't enough for him to shut it down, it's obvious that this thing's going to come down to the wire, and he's still thinking about Bama.
All right. Now, another big name that I wanted to ask you about is edge Anthony Jones. He's the #1 ranked edge in the 2026 cycle, and he's been taking visits. He's been taking visits left and right. So where do you think Alabama stands early on with Anthony Jones?
Well, they've obviously been one of the front runners. There's been buzz around Auburn, but I get the sense that he's also really high on Alabama because of just their history and then this current coaching staff's track record. So they're at or near the top of his list. Oregon, Miami, those are some recent visits that were eye-openers. He likes A&M and LSU, but Auburn and Alabama have always been in there, and I think the Tide are right there.
Yeah, still early in that recruitment. So Tide fans, talk to me. You guys just lost Caleb Cunningham to Ole Miss. This weekend, wide receiver Nashawn Montgomery from Miami Central High School, committed to the Florida Gators. He's on campus, could be a major flip target as well. So Tide fans, talk to Steve and I in the comment section below. How are we feeling right now? There's been it's a roller coaster ride recruiting. That's what it is. Big flip over the weekend, but Alabama's still duking it out for some of these top prospects, fighting for the #1 class in America. How are you guys feeling? Talk to Steve and I, comment section below. All right, Steve. Let's talk South Carolina. You love the Gamecocks. They're playing Mizzou this weekend, and they won. This game went final while we're on the air here. Some big names on campus. Edge Jared Smith, back in Columbia. He's committed to Auburn, one of the top edge rushers in the country. Offensive lineman, Bama-Ole Miss, he's committed to Georgia Tech, and we've been talking about him. He seems like one of the premier flips. Now, whether it's going to be Ohio State or South Carolina, I don't know. But Ejidahun back on campus in South Carolina. Mike Tyler, the tight end, committed to LSU. A big weekend for South Carolina. I should say it. Another big weekend for South Carolina.
They got a chance at all these guys. These guys have been season ticket holders. Bama-Ole Miss been on campus 4 times. This was Jared Smith's 2nd game this year. Mike Tyler's 3rd game. Kevin Pease back for his 2nd straight game. In-state offensive lineman committed to Georgia Tech. Donovan Murr, 4-star receiver, uncommitted. Heavy trend to South Carolina. He's been to like 4 home games this year. The Gamecocks have the number 20 ranked class in the country per on3 as they push towards the top 15. They got a great shot at all these guys. Jared Smith, they're the biggest threat to Auburn. He recently visited Ole Miss, but Sterling Lucas, Shane Beamer and company, this has been their top target the entire cycle. He's got a great relationship with Dylan Stewart. The chance of playing with Dylan Stewart on the next level is very exciting to him.
Yeah, I bet it is. Now, when we talk about South Carolina, we know that they're having fun down there in South Carolina. Shane Beamer and his staff, they do a great job on these big recruiting weekends. What's the vibe like, do you think, after a win in Columbia, South Carolina?
Well, their big win that they had, oh man, it's all running together. Who'd they beat a couple weeks ago?
Was it Ole Miss? Who did South Carolina beat? They beat Mizzou.
That's who they beat today. They beat
they beat Mizzou today, of course.
Yeah. So South Carolina,
A&M.
they beat A&M.
That was a big one.
Recruits on campus for that night game said it was the best environment that they've been in. Coaches, and these are guys that have coached in some of the biggest rivalry games, prospects that have attended some of the biggest rivalry games. South Carolina, they're trying to make a playoff push right now. They are as hot as anybody in the country. Them in Colorado are fun to watch how they've started stacking wins and things are taking off, and it's resonating on the recruiting trail. With Bama-Ole, they're battling Ohio State. Georgia Tech's hanging in there, but I think they have as much traction as anybody. And then this was another exciting visit, another opportunity to have Jared Smith on campus.
Steve, it feels like at the end of every weekend when South Carolina has a big home win, you're putting in a flip pick for the Gamecocks. Any idea who it could be this weekend?
Well, Mike Tyler would be the number 1 candidate for that tight end, currently committed to LSU. LSU's been battling to try and keep him in the fold, but we feel like South Carolina has really started to rack up that momentum.
All right, South Carolina fans, talk to us. Comment section below. How you guys feeling about a big win over Mizzou? Some big-time flip targets on campus. You got Jared Smith, Demola Jidahoon, Mike Tyler, Michael Clayton. Talk to us. Who you flipping? Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk a little Texas A&M. We mentioned Husan Longstreet on campus at USC right now, but the Aggies, they're getting – did we just lose Steve? Maybe? Oh, we got Steve. Very good. All right, so Aggies getting aggressive on the trail. Offensive tackle, Lamont Rogers, he's on campus. He's committed to Missouri. And Trey McNutt, this was a surprise. The 5-star safety committed to Oregon, is on campus at A&M. What's going on here, Steve?
Well, I think that A&M's been trying to chip away at Trey McNutt for a long time. I still think he's solid to Oregon, but being back at A&M, we'll see if they can start gaining some inches back in that recruitment. And then I think Lamont Rogers ultimately will be in the fold for Texas A&M. My on-3 RPM reflects that. He's been to a few games this year. I think Trooper Taylor's leading the charge in that recruitment on the trail, the comfort level of being developed under Adam Cushing, the new culture of the program under Mike Elko and company. I think I like the way that continues to trend for the Aggies for Lamont Rogers.
Well, if we play out the QB domino game a little bit further, if we got Husan Longstreet potentially flipping to USC, does Texas A&M have an answer if Longstreet departs their class?
Well, I think that we would see them maneuver on some other quarterbacks. We could start speculating, but they're still battling to keep Husan Longstreet. They just didn't know he was going to be visiting USC today. So all of a sudden, it's not looking as good as it did even yesterday when there was good, promising dialogue with Husan Longstreet, his family, and the Aggies. So would they go after some other guys? I think so. They have Miles O'Neill, a true freshman that they believe in, that is looked promising on the roster for them right now. And then certainly Marcel Reed's the guy that they're going to build this program around.
All right. Well, A&M fans, talk to us. Comment section below. Do you think that Longstreet sticks? Does he flip? How about Lamont Rogers and Trey McNutt? Stick or flip? Let us know. Comment section below. All right. Another recruit reaction in the books. Saturday was very exciting. There's more to come. Only a couple more weekends, Steve.
I know, and I'm ready for the final 2 weeks of this college football season. We'll see who makes the college football playoff. Early signing period, 3-day early signing period beginning on December 4th. It's going to be wild over these next 2 weeks as programs are making their final pitches to recruits, infrastructure's being laid out, and we're going to see a lot of chaos. So you're going to want to like and subscribe to be up to date on the latest. We will see you on the Inside Scoop tomorrow and flip around on Monday.